Oops, we did it again. We got a phone call from our good friend Tom, who's now determined to completely divest himself of what remains of his hot rod shop. And he gave us a call and said he'd give us first whack at what he had left. And boy, did he have a lot of good stuff left. We showed up to look at a handful of things and went back and forth in some numbers, and then, ooh, what about that? Ooh, what about? For long, we got everything you see here. Yeah, our march to acquire the capital tools that I've been dreaming about for 30 years for my dream workshop, even though the dream workshop isn't actually completed, we have continued to pick up. And here is a nice lathe. Got a 12.5 throw on a 42-inch long bed, made by the Cincinnati Lathe and Tool Company. I imagine if we do some research, we'll find out this was like made in 1945. There's a tag right here. Imagine if we clean up, there might be a date it was built. Point being, as we got this lathe with a whole bunch of tooling and a lot of everything you're going to need to make cool crap. Extra chucks, we got a steady rest back there. We got the three jaw chucks and a 4-jaw chuck. So, and then we got a whole mess of collets. So we got all the collets we'll need to do a bunch of stuff. Miscellaneous jaws and stuff for the lathe. We have a knurling tool for the lathe, chuck for the lathe. Okay, and tooling, or at least work holding for the lathe, we got this nice set of collets so we can precisely hold a lot of different materials in the headstock and turn it. So we also got we got a second Jacobs chuck, we got a live center and a dead center. So you'll have noticed we have kept dragging bits and pieces of mangled quick change rear ends home with different other combination of parts, because the actual real quick change is expensive in good condition. So our hope was to buy enough random parts that we can eventually put together something good. Well, Tom was looking to get rid of this quick change setup for, I don't know, I guess a 32. We got our quick change, and we can put it in one of the hot rods, or we can put it in a land speed racer, or we could, no end of things we can do with this rear end that we're quite excited to do.
For the midgets.
All right, for the midgets. We'll put it, it's for the, won't anyone ever think of the midgets? Another thing that Tom advertised was a set of 32 rails, a reproduction, high quality, very good. Oily fingerprints rusted into it, so we'll need to clean it up. He'd sandblasted them, so we'll have to do something about cleaning them up and getting them right. This here is Tom's frame table he built for doing 32 frames. We happen to now have parts for 2 different 32 frames. It is also something I was planning on building, was just generic frame table for building chassis on. So at some point when we are not building 32 frames or facsimiles thereof, all of this fixturing, all this jigging can be cut off, and different jigging can be welded on, and we can use this to build any frame type we want. And if we need to extend out or do flyers off the side for different sizes. Now, our friend Tom had this bolted to his garage floor. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put rollers. I'm going to actually cut down the legs quite a bit so that I could work while sitting down, and then put rollers on them, casters, locking casters, and then that way we can roll this thing around and put it where we want to use it. And then when we don't need it, we can haul it out of the way and hang it up in the rafters, or you know, set it on its side on the corner or back corner of the shop or outside, and just generally make it so it's not a nuisance. Well, yes, I am happy to see you, but it doesn't mean that this isn't an English wheel on my trailer. I've been dreaming about these. I mean, the kit for this assemblage, which is not as good as this assembly, is $2,000. And that's dramatically more than we paid for the whole thing with all the dies and everything. So we've got this, and we're really happy about that. Or most of the dies, or all the dies for the English wheel. Okay, this here is a planishing hammer, pneumatic one. Now, unfortunately, the hosing that was on here, because it came into this oiler and then came into the rest of the system, the foot pedal, which I have somewhere else, but with the bead roller at the other end of the trailer and this, between these two, if I change these dies out, I can make this a shrinker, it can be a stretcher, we can have it set up so it stretches in one direction only. There's so much we can do with that it is not funny. And since we have that, and we now have this, we can and we have our mill under the tarp over there, we can make all the various different dies we need out of good old tool steel. And we can, at this point here, there's very little we can't make, and that's super exciting to me. Okay, what we have here is yet another a bead roller. Then this is very, very, very similar to the Eastwood one that we already have, you know, there's plenty of videos of craftsmen using this sort of setup to do lots of really good work. Big advantage in this one is it's already on a pedestal. What I'm liable to do is box in this backside here a little bit, add some strength to it so it doesn't flop around like our Eastwood one does. The other thing I'll do is I'll take my Eastwood dies and compare them to these, and depending upon the size, with the lathe I can then either open up the throats so to fit this shaft, or I can build a press-in bushing, steel bushing for those if these are smaller shafts. I don't know what size shafts they are, probably the same size, who knows. But the point is, we've got options now with that. And we can also then look into maybe motorizing it. I don't know, there's things we can do with this. Here's the foot pedal for the planishing hammer. All of this stuff I'm going to put on casters, locking casters, so I can tuck it into the corner and get it all out of the way, except for the lathe. The lathe will be bolted down, same with the mill, because that's what you do with the good heavy equipment. But everything else is going to be on rollers, and I can tuck it into the corner, and when I need it I can roll it out away from the wall, use it in the middle of the floor, and then put them back where they'll work. These here are custom made dies for the bead roller for doing the door bead on a Model A, like a 3031 Model A. Here are all the beads that Tom had for his bead roller, of all the other ones. Here's the shop bag. Here are all the beads that Tom had for his bead roller, of all the other ones. Now, hiding back behind some of this stuff, we have these pedestals. And these pedestals, one is for a sandbag, and one, like this is for a sandbag, which I already have. And we have one here for a shop bag, which Tom was kind of throwing. Here's the shop bag. Ever wondered how on the back of a radiator, you got the tube, you got this little lip here that keeps your hose from popping off once you tighten down your clamp? Well, this is a very old school tool that does exactly that. Now to stop here, you back these off a little bit, you slide your tube in over this die to hit the stop, crank it down, turn the handle, and you create your lip there so that your hose does not fall off, because we hate it when our hoses fall off. What's in the box, man? What's in the box? Well, it turns out it's a Muncie M21 that has been rebuilt by professional. We have all the specs on it right here. That was done. You can see the single tick mark turned into the snout. So this is the narrow ratio Muncie 4-speed. So this is our second or third Muncie? Third, that's what I thought. So this is our third Muncie. And pretty excited about it. I am, that's right, this is our third, because I got one for the Chevelle and I got one for the 31 Tudor, and then this one here we'll put it somewhere. Yeah, that's right. So it's really nice, and that we got a good deal on that. I do think we got a really good deal on that. So Tom was, as we were walking by stuff, he was just handing it over. You know, shaping hammers, teardrop hammers for the bags, you know, for metal shaping, stops, little scribing tool for the lathe, dial indicator. It's kind of a cheap one. I've got a couple like that, but you can never have too many dial indicators even if they're cheap ones. Hiding up here. So if you can tell me what in this pile is scrap, what is tooling, and what is car parts, I'll give you a gold star. This is going to be a question we're going to have to answer here in probably a few weeks or even a couple months when we get around to unloading all this stuff and we have to organize it. But there's a whole lot of good stuff here regardless. Some pipe anvils of different types that you can put in your vise for bending different radiuses and sheet metal. So this is for pounding a bead in or turning over the lip on the end of a piece of sheet metal. We got solid cast steel semi parts that we can lop off and turn in the lathe to create all sorts of cool stuff. We got these angle pieces for work holding on the mill. 32 spring, 32 rear cross member. I mean, we're styling. We got a floor for a 3031 Model A. Would it be a picking adventure if we didn't get a 32 grill shell? Now, obviously, our standards are much lower than Matt and Mike over at Iron Trap Garage, because this is obviously a repop. And of course, the thing with repop grills is they're like augmented breasts. If you can touch them, they're real enough. And you know, for the driver type cars we like to build, a museum quality original one that survived, you know, 100 years or 90 years, I guess, 91 years, is a little bit far-fetched for us, and we're not that level of purist. So this is amazing. It goes onto the pile with our other repop and partial original ones. Now the other additional cool thing about this one is it comes with a old radiator for it. And you can tell it's old by the styling, the way the fins are. But it's really nice, and the only challenge is it came set up not a dual inlet or outlet, but a single. So this is actually, Tom was saying, it's for a small block Chevy. Now, there's a very good chance that that radiator will work with our Hemi. So this is probably going to go in the car with the Hemi, the Tudor with the Hemi, and I'm excited about that. Okay, so we are like basically a legitimate full-on hot rod shop, except we don't want customers. We just build this junk for ourselves because we are smart that way. I've been dreaming of having a big workshop with all of this level of tools and tooling in it to build whatever my heart's desire is for ever since I started learning that you could do this. So 30 years. 85% to the absolute, I mean, my wildest dream. So, well before we got the building built, we have all this stuff. And quite honestly, we're literally chock full out of space. We're cramming stuff where it don't belong and putting stuff outside under tarps that is way too valuable to be left in that condition. So we have made the executive decision, since we clearly lack the discipline to not buy more stuff, we're just going to make it impossible to go pick up any new stuff that we might decide we want to buy. We're going to do our best to completely tarp off this stuff. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe. Until next time, have a horde-tastic day.